Welcome aboard. Justin here from Swift, Silent, Deadly. Today we're taking a look at this pistol, the Smith Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. This will be a full review of the Bodyguard 2.0. I could not wait to get my hands on this pistol when it came out. If you followed my blog over the past year, you know that I have a deep, abiding interest in non-permissive environment carry solutions. That includes firearms, that includes holsters and other carry methodology, and that includes alternatives to firearms, period, like pepper spray and that sort of thing. I could not wait to get my hands on this gun. I managed to wait about 6 months after this thing came out just to let the market kind of sort out some of the bugs that may or may not emerge with this pistol. And when I finally saw one at my local gun shop a few weeks ago, I had to have it. So I paid full price out of pocket for this thing and I brought it home. So this review will cover the gun, all the features of the firearm from muzzle to magazine. Then we'll get into the REAP methodology, reliability, ergonomics, accuracy, and portability. And finally, I'll offer you some of my final closing thoughts on the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. Let's go ahead and get into the features of the gun. So I'm gonna go ahead and lock the slide to the rear. So the gun is clear. First things first, let's look at the barrel. That is the 2.75 inch barrel. This is a 380 ACP. The walls of that barrel are very, very thin. Smith & Wesson apparently and understandably has done everything they can to make this gun as small and light as possible. You'll also notice that barrel, I'm going to let the slide go home, that barrel is a tilting barrel design to delay the slide opening after the cartridge is fired. Now, there are multiple factors that contribute to the very flat shooting nature of this pistol, and that action type is one of those. Another is the very stiff recoil spring that's in this gun. And the third one is the brilliantly designed grip that allows such a low bore axis on the Bodyguard 2.0. Those three things combined together really work just fantastically well to make this an incredibly light recoiling, comfortable, and flat shooting gun to shoot. This gun is unlike any other pocket handgun when it comes to just how easy and comfortable it is to shoot. Now, moving down the rest of the slide, at the forward portion of the slide, we have these cocking serrations. Now, these cocking serrations are very, very functional. Very stiff recoil spring in this gun, as I've mentioned. So having that purchase is really, really nice. And those cocking serrations are the same front and rear. You actually have a little bit more to the front and just a little bit more real estate to get your hands on. Again, that spring is fairly stiff, so having that purchase is nice, but also these cocking serrations look unlike anything else on the gun. They're not just your typical straight up and down serrations. They look really, really good. They make this a sharp looking pocket pistol. Now, I love my Kel-Tec P32, but it's about as pretty as a pair of homemade shoes. It's not a very good looking pistol. This gun is a very sharp looking pistol. Some eye toward making this aesthetically pleasing was definitely applied in the design of this gun, and I appreciate it. It's a good looking pistol. Also on the slide, we have an external extractor. We have a hole in the top of the barrel hood that serves as a loaded chamber indicator. I would use that to ascertain if a cartridge was in the chamber. I would never fully trust it to verify that a cartridge is not in the chamber, however. It's a loaded chamber indicator, not an unloaded chamber indicator. And then we have the sights. So the sights on this are much improved over most pocket pistols. They are large, they are highly visible. The rear sight actually has a ledge to let you manipulate the slide off of that rear sight. And the front sight is a true glow front with a tritium tube and an orange ring. It is very apparently visible. It's a phenomenal front sight. Now, the rear sight is serrated and it has a very deep U-notch, and this is where I think it leaves a lot to be desired. That U-notch is very, very deep and it's very, very wide. It is hard to shoot this gun precisely beyond about 15 yards. I do okay out to about 15, but we lose the precision in that massive rear sight notch beyond 15 yards. I'll talk about that more when we get to accuracy. I think these sights could be better. And that basically is the slide. We have a very tasteful Bodyguard 2.0 and a Smith & Wesson logo. Down the left side of the slide, we have a Smith & Wesson information on the right side of the slide. Fairly tasteful markings on this. This is a good looking pistol. I did mention that recoil spring and that we'd come back to it. It is a full length guide rod with a captive spring. It comes out all in one piece. Very well designed there. Now let's jump down to the frame. There is no provision for mounting any kind of light, laser, whatever on this frame. You'll notice I've covered up the serial number there with a little piece of duct tape. And then we have the takedown lever. The takedown lever is nicely stippled where it turns there. Just ahead of that, we have two stippled portions of the frame, probably as an index for finger placement, that sort of thing. And then moving backward, we have the slide latch. This is a very well-designed slide latch. It's sufficiently large that it is actually functional. I can actuate that slide latch with my strong hand. Very well-designed slide stop. It's very proportional, yet it's large enough to actually be useful. Below the slide latch is the magazine release. This magazine release, again, expertly designed. It's not massive, huge in relation to the gun. It's also not teeny tiny. It is big enough to be very, very functional. The only maybe problem I ran into with magazines had nothing to do with the magazine release and more to do with the magazine up on the flesh of the web of the pad of my hand when I hit the magazine release. Magazine release, very well designed. Now let's talk about the grip. The grip has some very good stippling on it. It's very comfortable. It works very, very well to keep this gun flat shooting. Much more important than that is the design of this grip. It's got a very deeply cut back strap. You can get very high up on that grip. The trigger guard is undercut. This grip is just magical. It's nice and rounded. It's not like the Kel-Tex, which feels very squared off. This is a very ergonomic grip, which we'll get into just a little bit more. And then finally, the magazine. This pistol comes with two magazines, and these are like your typical, your thing that's becoming typical, your double stack and a half kind of magazine. I think the main body of the magazine is pretty much a double stack. It merges into a single stack up here at the top. And the flush fitting magazine, if you can see it, is a 10 round magazine. This also comes with an extended 11 round magazine. Now, I understand that it says 12 on there. I'll tell you this, I've had this gun for about 6 weeks now. I've loaded and unloaded this magazine probably 30 times, as well as leaving it loaded between range sessions. So it's more or less been loaded for several weeks now, as well as unloaded and reloaded many times, yet still, I'm not even close to being able to get a 12th round in there. They can call it what they want, they can label it what they want, but I have not been able to get 12 rounds into this thing. It does extend the length of the gun just a little bit. I don't find this necessary at all, but it's there for those of you with bigger hands than I have. I find it actually makes the gun look a little bit imbalanced with the frame being quite a bit longer proportionally than the slide. Also for me, just not necessary. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the reliability of this pistol. I fired 775 rounds through this gun. 750 of those have been 95 grain full metal jacket of the Magtech or PMC brass persuasion. 25 of those have been Federal Punch hollow points. Now, I'm kind of mixed on hollow points in a 380. I'll probably carry this with ball, just to be honest, or a hollow point that doesn't expand, just so it's got a little sharper leading edge. When we get down to 380, we're really marginal in terms of expansion and penetration. It may expand, but it may also fail to penetrate as a result. So I tend to prioritize penetration over expansion. That being said, it works with both. This gun has been absolutely 100% with both. No issues whatsoever in the reliability department. There's not a whole lot more to say on that. I've only fired 750 rounds. I've got another 1,000 rounds here that I'm getting ready to, I'm going to keep working with this thing. If anything changes, I will let you know. But this seems to be kind of on par with what other reviewers are saying. Ergonomics. The ergonomics of this pistol are fantastic. I'll be honest, when I draw this gun, when I hold it, when I shoot it, this is what I want other guns to feel like. It's very, it fits very naturally in my hand. I have a small, medium hand. It's not exceptionally large, not exceptionally small. This pistol just feels incredibly good. The curves are in the right places. It falls in the right places. This handgun ergonomically is kind of a dream for the most part. The controls are adequately sized. They're more than functional. Those slide cuts are where you need them and as deep as you need them. This is a very, very ergonomic pistol. Now, of note, this is the non-thumb safety version. There is also a thumb safety version that has a thumb safety back here. It's very small, and I imagine if it's like the old Bodyguard, probably fairly difficult to hit. Very little about this pistol is like the old Bodyguard, but I'm just saying safety-wise, Smith & Wesson has traditionally done a poor job, and it looks like the safety on this is still pretty flat sitting to the frame and probably difficult to actuate. I chose the non-thumb safety version. The one ergonomic complaint that I have, if you guys look at the web of my hand right here, you'll notice that cut there. Every time I took this gun to the range, I ended up being eaten up by the back corner of the slide there. When you get your hand nice and high up on that grip, sometimes a little bit of flesh can protrude up just enough to get cut by the back of that slide, and it is enough to be distracting. It's not going to put me down, but it is certainly painful enough to be a little bit distracting, especially on those longer range sessions. I tried Band-Aids that got shredded. I tried Leuko tape, which the tape didn't get cut, but my skin somehow still ended up broken underneath it. I don't know how Smith & Wesson would fix that. I don't know if it's a fixable issue. You know, maybe something just as simple as, I hate to even suggest this, but taking a file and rounding that off just a little bit. But that sharp rear edge of that slide will really eat the web of your hand up. It's no good. Accuracy. The accuracy of this pistol, frankly, bit of a disappointment. This is my biggest disappointment in the gun. I could deal with the ergonomic issue. I could deal with anything else I had, were it not for this accuracy issue, which really became prevalent beyond 15 yards. Inside 15, it points well. You don't need, you know, especially inside of 5, you don't need a ton of confirmation from the sights to get rounds on target. Around the 7-yard line out to and beyond, you really do start to rely on those sights. But 7, 10, even 15, I was relatively capable of making A-zone hits or down zero hits on my IDPA silhouettes, targets of that nature. Beyond 25 yards, I began to drop down threes and sometimes even miss the silhouette, which, as you guys know, I'm not the best shooter. Missing down threes and missing the silhouette at 25 yards, you guys have seen me shoot enough drills to know that is very, very uncommon. That is very unlikely. I shoot at 25 a lot, and I'm generally able to hit at least the down one, if not the down zero. I think I might have dropped a couple more at the 25. Yeah, holy shit, I certainly did. Man, I'll tell you, this thing is frustrating. The accuracy I was able to get with this after my last range session was at about 25 yards. I was able to keep about 50% of hits inside the down zero and all on the silhouette, usually in the down 1 or the down 3. 4, 5, 6 total. So 2 of those were out. Out of 8, I hit 50% accuracy. That's but about 50% accuracy at 25 yards. That rear sight notch is just so big. It is very, very difficult to be precisely accurate. Now, many of you will say, what does it matter? This is a belly gun. This is a, inside 7-yard gun, whatever. Here's the thing with that. I don't carry this gun based on my threat. If I can carry a gun, any gun I want, I carry this gun every single day, day in, day out, from the time I wake up until the time I go to bed. There are some times when I cannot carry this gun and I have to carry something very, very small and concealable. My threat is still the same or possibly even greater. I still may be in that Elijah Dickens scenario of someone shooting at me from 40 yards away and have to take accurate shots. I'm not excluded from big boy gunfights just because all I have is a little gun. I demand of any gun that I carry to be accurate out to about 25 yards, and that's just the way it is. Now, accuracy is helped some by the trigger. I didn't talk about the trigger in the features of the pistol, and I don't know why not, other than I just forgot. So this trigger comes in at about 4.5 pounds, and frankly, it's a little bit mushy, so we pull back on the trigger, we hit the quote-unquote wall, and then there's no real super distinct wall. It kind of mushes into a break, and the gun fires. Not the worst trigger I've ever seen, certainly better than many. The trigger reset, however, is absolutely horrible. It is very mushy, very light, and in fact, I'll try to edit into this portion right here. There are several times I'm shooting in rapid fire where I don't quite let that trigger go forward far enough. There's just not enough force behind it, and I kind of stutter a little bit. I prematurely pull the trigger before it has reset. So the trigger on this thing, it's neat looking, it's flat faced, it's got the little drop safety, very cool looking trigger. Functionally could be quite a bit better, But all things considered, not bad though. If an aftermarket rear sight would come out that is a little bit tighter and allows a little bit more precision, frankly, I'd be perfectly willing to live with the trigger. So we've talked about reliability, 100%. We've talked about ergonomics, fantastic. We've talked about accuracy, bit of a disappointment as far as accuracy goes. Now let's talk about portability. This thing is very, very portable. It's a little bit bigger than the Kel-Tec P32, quite a bit smaller than a Smith Wesson J-frame. This is head-to-head a much smaller gun, smaller than M&P Shield. This is a teeny, tiny little pistol. Fully loaded with 10+1, this thing weighs 15.1 ounces, which is still under a pound for 11 rounds of 380. That is pretty significant. You can carry this almost completely forgetting about it. The size of the pistol is certainly there. The grip is also, especially with this longer grip, is also sufficient that you can get a decent draw from a belt-carried holster. Even with the, you'll see me drawing plenty, even with the flush fit mag, this thing does very well from a belt-carried holster. All my shooting was done from the Filster Enigma using a Filster skeleton. This holster functions extremely well. This is my first Enigma, and I am really enjoying it. The fact that Filster is making a holster for this gun already less than a year on the market is a really strong indicator of what the aftermarket support is going to be for the Bodyguard 2.0. I've also seen some pocket holsters on the market for this thing and some ankle holsters, and I'm sure plenty more holsters will come along for this gun. I'm also interested to see if Smith & Wesson comes out with different variants of this pistol. But aftermarket support so far is very strong. Portability so far is there. If you want to carry in the traditional belt carry position, the Filster skeleton, this thing can be belt worn or it can be worn on the Enigma. If you want to carry it in a pocket, those holsters are here. If you want to carry it in an ankle, those holsters are here. If you want to carry it any other way, I'm sure it's coming very soon. Now, what are my final thoughts on this pistol? So this thing, I picked this up for right around $400. This is a massive upgrade from the Kel-Tec P32, except where size is concerned. The P32 weighs 5 ounces less than this, fully loaded with 7+1, so that's only 66% of the weight of this. It's also much smaller than the Bodyguard 2.0. If size is your overarching concern, size and weight are your overarching concerns, the Kel-Tec P32 wins. If you can go up just a little bit in width, length, and height and weight, you get a massive upgrade in everything else. This is a much more shootable pistol. The sights, well, both are going to make some compromises on the sights. I think these are generally better. However, I was able to make 100-yard hits with the Kel-Tec P32. I didn't even attempt it with this because I have missed the silhouette with this at 25. So maybe the sights are a wash. The ammunition, though, this thing is 10+1 or 11+1 of 380 ACP versus 8+1 or 10+1 of 32. And really, it's 8+1. You can buy the 10+1 mag, but it makes the P32 substantially larger. 10+1 of 380 is a massive upgrade over 7+1 of 32 ACP. 32 ACP is kind of bargain basement for centerfire. 380, now we're into a halfway decent defensive cartridge. I would have no qualms whatsoever. Maybe even if the sights are better, maybe even carrying this not only as a really deep concealment, back out, hideout NPE gun. I would probably carry this much more if that side issue, when that side issue is corrected. I'm confident that it will be. Versus a Smith & Wesson J-frame, 5 rounds +0 versus 10+1 in a much smaller, much easier to shoot, lighter, more compact, more recoil-friendly package. And 38 Special and 380, let's be frank, are pretty neck and neck as far as performance goes. 38's just a slight edge on 380, but they're kind of batting in the same weight class. Bodyguard all day long. For me, as much as I love my revolvers, this is just such a massive leap forward. Generally, I am very much in favor of this gun. I do need the accuracy to be corrected before I start carrying this thing, though. And I'm confident that's going to come in the form of a rear sight. I've already written an article on swiftsilentdeadly.com about how much difference there is between this rear sight and any other reasonably sized combat style sight. This thing is absolutely massive. There's no reason for it to be. I really want a new rear sight. Otherwise, excellent pistol. I am glad I purchased this, although I will be looking to change out that sight. If you are looking for a non-permissive environment carry, or just for the smallest thing you can reasonably carry that has a reasonable payload of a reasonable cartridge, give the Bodyguard 2.0 a strong look. It doesn't cost that much more than the P32. It brings a lot to the table, however. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time. If you have any questions about the Bodyguard 2.0, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them. I'm going to do a lot more work with this pistol in the coming months. Really, really big fan of the gun. If you're not a patron, please consider becoming one. Ammo to Go did provide some ammunition for this review. Ammo2go.com. Check them out. But most of the ammo, the gun, the holster, whatever, comes out of my pocket or from Patreon dollars. So if you pay $5, $10 a month, whatever, on Patreon, that is where your money goes to supporting reviews like this one. SwiftSilentDeadly.com is my blog. If you've only watched me on YouTube, you need to go check out SwiftSilentDeadly.com. There is a ton of content, 400 plus articles going back to, I believe, 2019. Cover a little bit of everything, firearms, survival, preparedness, resilience kind of stuff. Check it out. In the meantime, stay dangerous.